So there's a concept in the Bible that's more relevant, more evident, and so much more visible than at any other time in history. And let me explain. If you've heard of this parable, it's the parable of the sower. It comes Matthew 13. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you know the story, it's about the sower planting and 4 types of people coming up. And one of them, the last one, it talks about in verse 8, but others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. And I want to encourage you guys today, because a lot of people, they look at this parable, they look at this process of you're investing in something and then you get something, you reap what you sow, you put in input, you get an output. Okay, no big deal. But because of the internet, because of the connectivity, because of our fast-paced movement in life, because of our advancements in technology, our advancements in life and knowledge and language and education, so many different things, we're in a time more so, far so than any other point in history for which whether you sow locally, whether you sow digitally, whether you sow in your community, whatever it is, the impact to that from person to person, from experience to experience, has never been more of a 60, a 30, a 100-fold crop than it has in this day. And so I want to encourage a lot of you guys, because a lot of people, they think they're doing something and it's useless. You're going to church. You could even be serving as a janitor. You could be serving in some quote unquote small way, but you don't see the fruit. You don't see what it's doing. You may be saying something to somebody and then they go and say something to somebody else. You might have tried to reach out to somebody. You might have shown love to somebody, and you don't realize in that moment or even some time after that what impact it has. And I'm here to encourage you, because we're in a time right now where if you are planting and you are sowing for the kingdom, then you will harvest and you will have fruit from that. And whether it takes a long time, whether it's just a small part of a bigger picture, whether you had to evangelize, you had to love on somebody in order for a couple more steps, a couple more things for that other person to take root later, whatever that is, you may not see it now, but this process, which has always been evident in all of history, it's something where God has always enabled that for all of us throughout time. But especially in this time, if you're doing kingdom work, if you're doing something, especially digital ministry, but even more so just anything around you with the speed, the interconnectedness, everything going on around us, this 60, this 100, this 30-fold, you may never see it. You may never know what the impact is. I never know how many people get impacted in whatever way throughout the course of somebody's day. Maybe I'll see that in heaven one day when I rewind on each day, each impact, and what the downstream impact is. Sort of, I guess a term might be a butterfly effect in some sense. But whatever that is for you to say a word, for you to give an action, as small as it is, whatever it is in your household, if it's at church, if it's at your workplace, wherever it is, online, when you post something, you reap what you sow. And when you're planting for the Lord, and when you're planting for the kingdom and you're doing it for righteousness, if you're doing it for the Lord, then I guarantee you, you may not see it, you may not understand it, but you will get something out of it. And so a lot of us were going through suffering. We went through suffering. We went through some hardship. And even for me, I went through a lot of different difficulties. But one thing that I was so encouraged by, even during my time when I was even 3-4 years ago, going through a tough time, I watched other people, I talked to other people, and they spoke into my life, and they weren't necessarily suffering at that time. The people that I listened to online, they weren't suffering that at that time, but because they went through it prior, because they knew about that from their experience or whatever other place they've heard, they were able to speak into my life. And so for anybody listening here, anybody that's looking at their ministry, they're looking at what they're doing, and they're asking themselves, what's the point? What is it that God's doing with my life? I don't see any fruit in my church. I don't see any, fruit in my workplace or whatever it is. But I'm here to tell you, even though you don't see it, even though other people may be mocking you, even though other people might look at that and say, that looks stupid, even the smallest things, whether you're just saying a Bible verse to somebody, whether you're encouraging them by saying, God loves you, or that's a wonderful, XYZ that you have. I'm so thankful for whatever compliment it is, right? Those things add up, and those things are there, and it impacts somebody. It impacts somebody, even though you may look at that, and even for yourself, you think, oh, I'm not motivated. I don't see the joy in it, or whatever it is. I guarantee you, if you're doing it for the kingdom, you're planting and you're sowing, you're reaping in some way, and you don't see it, you don't understand it, but it doesn't matter, because somebody's getting encouraged, somebody's getting blessed, somebody downstream from not even that person, maybe the next generation, maybe a friend of a friend that's listening to that story. Maybe they told a story to somebody, whatever that impact is, because there's so much of a second, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree impact that it has downstream that you don't see it, you don't understand it, but it's happening. And so I want to encourage a lot of you guys, because this time period we're in, obviously you have advancements. Obviously we're the most highly advanced society in all of history, and that impact, a lot of it is used in a bad way. A lot of it is used in a good way. But for those that are planting and doing things for the kingdom, I guarantee you, yeah, you're going to have some people that have these seeds fall on stony places and on the road, and these other places that chokes up these other people. But for the fourth group of people, there are people that get so much fruit, so much encouragement. And so keep going in what you're doing. Even though you're sitting there, you're getting, mockers, you're getting taunters, you're getting all these kinds of people. You're getting people that even tell you, stop it. This is useless. It hasn't helped me. It hasn't helped me. And I know there's so many Christians and even pastors and leaders, they just quit because they had a couple of bad experiences, but they don't realize that there's so many other people. Maybe they're silent, maybe they're the majority. They went off, they did a lot of great things, and they're doing things for the kingdom. And so you may not see it, you may not understand it, but I'm telling you, this principle, the parable of the sower, what Christ has taught, this is so much more relevant today, so much more evident today, so much more visible today than you could ever have seen before, because of the advancements, because of the age that we live in, and because of this time period, the setup for what is to come. A lot of things are happening right now, and God is using it. He's redeeming it. And so take heart. You got to keep going. And even though you don't see it, God is working. So just want to encourage you guys with that. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.